Right, we're welcoming everybody and letting everybody in. Welcome to Parsha. This week's Parsha. It's Deuteronomy. Oh, there we go. I'm letting people eat. It's Deuteronomy 25:17. Oh no. I'm sorry. That's just the section that I was going to talk about. But what's today's what's the it's
Teitzei.
key Teitzei, and that is, do you know what section that is? Deuteronomy what?
That
All right, let me see.
yeah
Now I have to look it up right off the bat.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, all right, it's Deuteronomy 21:10. It's Deuteronomy 21:10 through 25:19. Okay, so there we go. Deuteronomy 21:10 through 25:19, and the name is Ki Teitzei.
Teitzei.
That's how you pronounce it,
Right.
Teitzei. Okay.
Teitzei.
And what does it mean?
It means when you go out.
When you go out.
Right.
All right. So shall we do the? Why don't we do this? I'll have you do the blessing. I'll do a quick summary of the highlights, and then we'll decide. I know that you have a lot to talk about.
I'm not going to be able to cover it all. There's more information here. I'm not going to even try to.
It's a ton of information, right? Because of there's a ton of information. So what we'll do is then maybe I'll go first, and I only have about 15 minutes, and I'll cover
as
that.
long as you want, and I'll just
All
put
right.
in as much as I can.
All right. So let's do the bracha. Take it away.
Baruch atah Adonai Melech asher b'chavim l'kol hamim v'natan lanu Torah. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And if there's anyone who
And there
wants
we
to
go.
dedicate this study, this
Sorry,
Torah
Rebecca.
study, to put it in the chat, and if you want to dedicate it for a purpose or to a person, go ahead and put it in the chat. So this is this really interesting. We said this is a very thick and dense parsha. And I think it starts off with maybe a discussion about justice in everyday lives, particularly the treatment of captives, which I think is what Rabbi McLashley is interested in really talking about. Like, how dare it give you guidelines for the treatment of raping women? That's it's a terrible set of guidelines. But it also goes on to discuss inheritance rights, which the firstborn son, even if you don't like him, he's still entitled to get his double share, which is funny. It talks about the rebellious child, that what to do with the rebellious child, that you can knock him off, but do because for social order. But the rabbis said, again, of course you can't do that, no matter what. And then there's a section about social responsibility, which is kind of nice, right? There's all these different mitzvot that are described in the parsha, 75 or so, or 70 something or other. And it's things like returning lost objects. So you have an obligation to restore property and to help a struggling neighbor's animal. Kindness to animals is one of them. Okay, you can't muzzle an ox when it's threshing grain or whatever. All right, and some safety measures, like you have to build guardrails, which is interesting. You have to build it to prevent accidents. Okay, so that society is obligated to keep its citizens safe. You can't just put up a balcony with no wall, right? You get just giant ledge at the end of a 30-story building. You got to put a fence around it. All right. So this parsha talks around sexual ethics. We alluded to that before. And family life. There's marriage laws and detailed laws about it, what happens during adultery and premarital, sex and divorce, and they had it all back then. They saw it all, just like grandma did, just like you did. You think, everybody thinks that grandma doesn't know, but grandma knows, because these things have been going on for a bazillion years. Whatever's going on now is nothing new. Okay. Then there's sections, of course, about justice and fair commerce and how you should treat your workers, and loans, and how you shouldn't take advantage of the poor. And there's a section on weights and measurements, so that you have to have honest scales, right? You can't just put your finger down on the scale. And then finally, and this is the part that I guess I'm going to get a chance to really pontificate over, is some memory, some moral lessons about remembering Amalek, and which I don't understand, and remembering Egypt, actually. So, let me, since we just talked about remembering Amalek, and the fact that that's actually the thing that I want to expound upon. Should I start? Maybe I'll go there.
It's interesting. You can start by saying, help me out here.
What?
Amalek, right?
Yeah.
May their name be erased. We want to forget them. Right?
Exactly.
We're commanded to remember them.
This is exactly the point that I want to discuss. It's exactly the point that I want to discuss. What Rabbi McLashley is alluding to occurs in Deuteronomy 25, verse 17 through 19. And let's see if I can remember it. It says, remember what Amalek did to you. Remember what Amalek did to you on the way when you came out of Egypt, right? When you came out of Egypt. Now, who is Amalek? Amalekites, let me just back up and just say that Amalekites are the bad guys, and they literally symbolize, they are Ladorot, okay? They continue on to this day. They are the symbolic enemy of Jews, no matter where they are or when they occur. So, people say Hitler was an Amalekite, okay? That they crop up, that this doesn't just happen. It's not just one singular people, but that they continue to crop up here and there, and they are our opposers. They are forever the enemies of Israel. Okay.
It's the French Canadians. We know it.
All right. So it says, remember Amalek, and remember how he met you on the way, and he attacked the stragglers at the rear, at the back, when the weak ones, right? The people who were at the weak, when they were faint and weary, and they lagged behind. And then remember that Amalek didn't have any awe for God or respect for God. And therefore, when the Lord your God grants rest from all your enemies around you in the land that the Lord your God is giving to you as an inheritance, when you get that land, you shall, and we've talked about this a bazillion times, the worst curse, you shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under the heavens. That means in this world, right? In one of the four worlds, the physical of the four worlds, the one that you're in, right? So we shall blot out his memory and not forget. Wait, what? Wait, what? I mean, that is like paradox right there, that we should blot out someone's memory, but then not forget. How do you not forget to blot out once? Because once you blot out their memory, aren't they forgotten?
Basically, you shall not forget to forget them.
Don't forget to forget them, which is exactly. So this is kind of a crazy way of saying this, right? And this is why I wanted to get into it, because it's so funny. I talk about paradox all the time that being a Jew, the whole point, one of the major points, yes, about being a Jew is to praise God and blah 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 blah. We're that aside, okay. The next big, main point is to learn how to tolerate paradox. That's what it is. Learn how to tolerate paradox. Learn to struggle with your faith. That's the name of Israel, right? One who wrestles with God. Okay? So um so you've got this immediate paradox, and this paradox of has made its way into the 613 commandments. Now, let me back up and say, yeah, we got the 10 commandments at Mount Sinai, right? But then there were other laws given, and there's supposedly 613. Now, these 613 commandments are divided into positive commandments and negative commandments. Okay, positive and negative. Okay, and things to do and things not to do. Do this, don't do that. All right, positive and negative. Okay, and the first time these commandments aren't actually elucidated or expounded upon in the Torah as they were given in Mount Sinai. Many of them happen in this chapter, in this Parsha that we're reading today, but a lot of them don't. And where they first crop up explicitly, where they're first explicitly discussed as 613, is in the Talmud in Makot 23b to 24a, and that's the earliest mention, and it's Rabbi Simlal, who was from the 3rd century CE. Okay, and he said the 613 commandments were given to Moses at Sinai, and there are 365 negative commandments corresponding to the days of the year. A little astrology there, right? And there's 248 positive commandments corresponding to the limbs of a human being. That's how Jews believe that there are the 248 limbs. Okay, so another correlation, another mystical correlation. But in the Torah and the Talmud, the complete list of these 613 commandments aren't given. So where were they elucidated? Well, the first, they were really elucidated by Rambam and Rashi, and they expanded on them. Now, Rambam counted, he said that there were only 2 commandments that applied to Amalek, but there's a book called Sefer HaChinuch, okay? And that was a codification, and it said that there were 3 that of these commandments applied to Amalek. So Rambam's count, it was 188. It says destroy Amalek, and then 189 is remember Amalek. So blot them out and then remember, okay? And then in Sefer HaChinuch, it's remember Amalek, destroy Amalek, and then don't forget Amalek. So it's 3, okay? So there's 3 that have to do with Amalek. Okay, so whether or not there's 2 or 3, let's talk about this phrase that's being used, remember Amalek, which is Zachor et Asher asa lecha Amalek, okay? And this is Deuteronomy 25:17, and it says, remember what Amalek did to you on the way that you came out of Egypt, just like what I said to you before. And this is the positive commandment. You were supposed to do it, right? Remember, do it, okay? And then there's the other one, the other part of it. Blot out Amalek. Timche et Zeker Amalek. Okay, there we go. All right. And that is the the positive, also a positive commandment to do something. Blot out Amalek. You shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under the heavens. And then there's the negative. Do not forget. Lo tishkach. Right. And this one is the disputed one. Okay, and it's a negative. It's a negative commandment. Okay, now the mystical. Let me get in here. Here, I gotta have to change it. There's a mystical tradition, the Zohar, that treats the two imperatives to remember and to blot out as opposite spiritual disciplines. One, to keep Amalek is the consciousness as vigilance against doubt, and the other is to erase and eradicate Amalek's cosmic root in its whole in holiness. Okay, by the time the Zohar came around in the 13th century, this discrepancy of remembering and forgetting, okay, was the Zohar was really the first to how would be the word? Maybe thematize. That would be the word. To thematize it as a cosmic paradox, right? To expand it, or metaphorically, as a cosmic paradox. So the Zohar expounds upon the fact that how can you blot it out and remember it? Okay, it's a simultaneous necessity of both acknowledgement and eradication, and this is what I'm talking about a central core aspect of Judaism being the ability to tolerate paradox. And with that, I'm turning it over to Rabbi McLashley, unless you guys have a few questions in the chatter.
You mentioned the idea of remembering and eradicating. Where do we find that actually in practice, in Jewish practice, that we remember and eradicate simultaneously? On Purim, by the Megillat Esther, when we hear the name of Haman.
Oh, yes,
what do we
course.
do? We sound the grogger. We make the noise maker to blot out his name.
Right.
And we're simultaneously mentioning his name and blotting it out.
That's right. That's right. And that is a blotting out the name. We've talked about that. You're not allowed to blot out the name of God, right? You put Haman's name on the bottom.
In one instance, the case of the Sotah by the Maimar.
That's the only time you're allowed to erase it. That's right. And then
that's the only exception.
But evil people, we blot out all the time. You write Haman's name on the bottom of your shoes so that you're walking on his name, because the name is the thing. And we've talked about that point of the fact that Jewish magic is logocentric. It's all about the name, right? Yep. It's all about Lashon. Yep. It's also all about Lashon, the speech, the name, the divine name, the power is in the name. So there you go.
And we see it in the prayer, and the Anabakoch prayer is actually the Membet, the 42-letter name of God. So it's the Anabakoch prayer. But anyway, so Teitzei, what's unique about this Parsha? Why is this Parsha different from all other Parshiot, as we'd say on Passover? Why is this night different from all other nights? This Parsha contains more mitzvot than any other Parsha that you can find. It contains 74 of the mitzvot, of the 613 mitzvot, the mitzvot aseh, mitzvot los aseh, the positive and negative commandments, of which the Taryag mitzvot is comprised. 74 of them can be found in this week's Parsha, Ki Teitzei. So this is a disproportionately large number of mitzvot that are concentrated in one given Parsha. And some of the mitzvot covers maybe like Kavod Hamet, honoring the dead, that you cannot leave a body unburied. We find the mitzvah of chasing away the mother bird before you take her eggs. We find the mitzvah of Dr. Jeremy alluded to, if a neighbor's beast of burden should stumble, you have to help, render assistance. You can't yoke the shore and the chamor, the ox and the donkey together because they graze at different rates, and that would be considered a violation of tza'ar balei chayim, causing suffering to a living creature. We find the mitzvah of hashavas aveda, returning a lost object. And you know, the 74 mitzvahs that are expounded, I can't expound on each one, but let's just take one of them, the mitzvah of hashavas aveda, which is returning a lost object. In the second parak of Baba Metzia, which is part of the oral tradition, the Talmud, you'd call it, the Gemara, there's the second parak of Baba Metzia all deals with what constitutes a lost object and when it has to be returned. It starts, that these fines are to you and these fines you're obligated to announce. When are you obligated to do the mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda, to return a lost item? And when is the item considered hefker, that is available that you can just stick it in your pocket? Finders, keepers, losers, weepers, you can just keep it. But the very first mitzvah that we're going to focus on tonight is the most interesting one that gives me headaches, and I'm waiting for some feedback on this. I see Lolan. Lolan, good observation. Was their society a little bit wild back then? That touches on what I'm going to go into, because, you know, I was talking to Dr. Jeremy about this the other day. You cannot apply modern standards to that period of time, because you're right. It was a different society back then. For example, one of the universal Sheva Mitzvah Noach, the 7 commandments given in Noah, one of them is Ever Min Achai, not to rip a limb from a living creature, you know, to eat it. And you say, oh, what kind of savages, barbarians, who would do such a thing anyway? I mean, who would be so inhumane or so cruel? But we have to understand, much of what's included in the Torah is because it was addressing a different time, a time where, you know, this wasn't a time of civility, and the modern values that we hold precious today were not in effect, you know, at that period. But one of the most interesting mitzvot is what they call the Eshet Yafet Toar. The Eshet Yafet Toar is the beautiful female captive. Okay? The Eshet is a female.
Aisha was a
Eshet,
woman.
We sing the Eshet.
This is, by the way,
you know.
This is where the word Aisha, right, is we see that as a name,
right?
Aisha,
right.
It's Aisha. I see it all the time, Aisha, right? If you've ever heard of someone named Aisha, that means woman. That's what that means. It's like naming someone man, woman, Adam.
Right.
You know,
it's Lashon Nekeva. It's a feminine form, Lashon Nekeva. But Eshet, we have, you know, we sing the Eshet Chayil Miyimtza on Shabbos. A woman of valor who can fight. Eshet Chayil Miyimtza. You know. Anyway, so the Eshet Yafet Toar, the beautiful woman that's taken captive. It says that the Torah gives a list of sort of like a procedure that you have to follow if a soldier, a Jewish soldier, an Israelite soldier, wants to take this woman against her will, and, you know, waka waka. I don't have to be more specific than that. So it's very mystifying. You say, well, wait a minute. Why wouldn't the Torah just say, forget about it? You can't take a woman that you've taken captive against her will. Forget about it. Not going to happen.
This was a common occurrence at that time.
Right, and it was a common occurrence at that time. A woman taken prisoner in time of battle was considered personal property. The Torah specifies specifically, Eshet Yafa Yafeh is beautiful. That she's beautiful. He desires her. He wants her, right? He wants her. So the Torah acknowledges you have a Yetzer Hara. And, you know, I mean, in my own mind, I'm trying to think. I was with the Mishmor Gevul back when I was in my early 20s. I'm 70 now. But, you know, with the Mishmor Gevul, with the Border Patrol in Israel. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, in the cultures at that time, it was considered like, Yeah, you rip a limb from a living creature and you take a woman prisoner. Hey, there's no problem. She's my property, right? I mean, to the victor go the spoils. What they'd look at someone and say, well, what's your problem? What's your issue? It's to the modern mind, I'm saying, this sounds absolutely absurd, crazy, nuts. I mean, this is a human
Well, I
being.
mean, morals and what is in, change over time, and that's
Right.
just it, right?
But why does the Torah just not come out and say, no, it's forbidden, it's usher, it's forbidden, why is it that you have three major sins in Judaism, the three biggies: avodah zarah, idolatry; gili arayah, sexual immorality; and shvichas damim, murder, shedding blood. And this would seem to come under the category of sexual violation, right? It seemed to me. On the surface, I'm saying, yeah, it's not a forbidden relationship, but I'm saying, why isn't it a forbidden relationship? Like we had the laws of Gilead riot. It's not, that details.
Well, I mean, I can't answer why. I mean, I can only answer that that relative to what was going on, the guidelines that are in the Torah are far more progressive than the guidelines that happened at that time, right? Because you have the woman, and you are supposed to allow her a certain period of mourning in which she doesn't cut her nails, and
or her hair.
And she gets to cry and make herself look ugly, and you have to see her for you can't touch her.
She has to sit availous. She has to be in mourning.
She has to be in mourning, and you can't touch her, and you have to see her at her worst.
You can't bathe. You can't. There's all kind of laws.
At her smelliest, at her most unwashed, and then and only then, if you still desire her, are you allowed. So I mean so relative to what was going on at the time, it's very progressive. So do I give it an A+? No, I give it a B-. I give it a B- because
you hear that, Hashem? Dr. Jeremy's giving you a B.
I think it's a little. I think what you can do and is not always what you should do, right? I mean, we've all seen something that is legal to do, but we still find immoral. Okay? So there's plenty of financial crimes where, we realized it was a loophole, and it was totally legal, and they got 10,000 airline miles and it was fine. But we all know that the person cheated the system and it was immoral. So
I'm going to give Hashem an A+, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'm going to give Hashem an A+. Not a B-. I'm going to give him an A+. I always give Hashem an A+. I mean, just to let you know, I'm kind of biased in his favor.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that, envision yourself. I want the guys out there, the men who are listening, Lolan and others, envision yourself. Really, you're there on. I'm trying to imagine. Okay, fine. I'm living in that period of time, and I've been out in battle, and I don't have my wonderful wife, and I'm all alone, and I take a female captive, and she, she looks like one of those Green Orion slave women from Star Trek. Or even better, Carrie Fisher, in the slave girl outfit, the Jabba the Hutt. And, you're looking at it. Now, this is at a time that there was no such thing as equality. Hashtag me too hadn't been born yet. And this was the common custom. You take a woman captive, she's your property. She's
property.
It's disgusting. It's deplorable. It's detestable. To modern ears, even to my ears, it sounds like, huh? What? But then, I'm thinking to myself, really, I mean, if I had taken a captive that looked like Carrie Fisher in that silver bikini when she was slave girl to Jabba the Hutt, I mean, I'm very, Rabbi, what Rabbi? My name's David O'Reilly McClashley. What are you talking about, Rabbi? Your Yetzer Hara gains control.
Yeah.
your evil impulse gains control. And the Torah acknowledges that, you know what? The Torah was given to human beings, basar v'dam, flesh and blood, not to malachim, not to angels, not to, that we all have what's called in Kabbalah a nefesh habahamit, an animal nature. And in times of conflict and in times of war, that nefesh habahamit, that yetzer hara, that evil impulse, can gain dominance. So the Torah says, look, if you did, it's like this. If it's just asar al pi halacha, you can't do it. They're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it anyway.
So give them a really difficult pathway.
Exactly. So what the Torah says is, look, if you're going to do it, you have to do all the things Dr. Jeremy just said, right? You have to let her hair grow long. You have to let the fingernails grow long. You have to give her time. 1 month, actually, is what it says in the Torah. 1 month to mourn.
1 month.
And, right, chodesh achat, a single month to mourn. And to go through all these procedures. Then in the Pasuk 15, in verse 15, it says that if you do all these things, it says that, that you're going to find her to become detestable to you. Because it said that, you have to, it alludes to having 2 wives, one you love and one you detest, one you disdain. So from that, the rabbis, darshan, have figured out that it's like a hint, an indication that if you take this woman against her will and you go through all this, you're going to come to despise her, because it's not the
you're not going to achieve bayit shalom, peaceful household.
You're not going to achieve shalom bayit because because the relationship is not predicated on mutual respect. Right. I mean, I have tremendous respect for my wife. I better have respect for her. She can kick my arse, but I mean, she beats me in an arm wrestling contest. Just to let you know, from lifting babies all those times. She was a postpartum nurse. She was retired for 18 years, but so anyway, the point. And then the Torah later on goes into the Ben Sora Omoreh. The Ben Sora Omorah is the rebellious son. I
want to hear about the rebellious son. That's the one I said you can put down. It's like Old Yeller.
You bring it, and so it is so that we exactly. He
gets rabbit or whatever, and you're like,
exactly. No. We're talking Cujo, okay? This is a kid that turns out like Cujo, Stephen King. If you've seen Cujo, okay, frothing at the mouth, that completely off the rails. All right, think Jeffrey Dahmer.
Okay,
yeah.
Fair enough.
Right, or
someone who's gone off the rails, and it's just right. Like they're destructive to society, and they're a bad egg, and we've all seen it.
So the Torah is saying that, hey, look, that's the likelihood, and we see that from David Amelech, King David, who took a woman who was captive, and his progeny didn't turn out so great. Anyway, the point is, the Torah says, look, you have this waiting period to reconsider. And then you have these warnings that if you go ahead and do it anyway, you're going to come to despise this woman, because the relationship is not predicated on mutual respect or genuine affection. It's basically just motivated by the nefesh habahamit, the animal nature.
Wait. Someone has just brought up a really good point.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, because
that's fine.
I want to go back to the Aish, because this is a good point. Okay, so Pora Abbott says, she's referring to captive women, and in her, and I, but in Jewish tradition, it is the woman that has conjugal rights, not the man. So he might be able to take her as a wife, but he still can't force her to have sex with him.
Well, the Torah is saying that basically he can, but he has to follow this procedure.
How? But if he has to follow that procedure, are you saying she doesn't have the rights of a Jewish woman? I mean, it sounds to me like as soon as he marries her,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Once he marries her, the thing of this is that here's the procedure. She has she has to she has to convert. In Kabbalah, they go into this situation.
So right, she has to convert before she gets married.
Exactly.
So if she converts before she gets married, then he doesn't have the right to rape her because that's not only is that
that's where
forbidden.
that's where it gets a little confusing, because I was looking this up, and that's where it actually does get a little confusing, because the thing is that yeah, he doesn't. It would seem that he doesn't have the right to take her, but it says that yeah. Here's the situation, and I'm gonna go to the what I was researching on this point. It just recaps what I already said. The Talmud calls this law concession to man's Yetzer Hara, evil inclination.
Yeah.
That to say that a soldier's sexual instinct is strong enough that if it were not permitted way to have a sexual relationship with a female captive, he would do so nonetheless. In other words, he's gonna go ahead and do it. All right, he's it's like one of those things, what do they call it, a crime of passion, maybe? Or
yeah, but then then he has committed. Okay, all right. I get a little confused because then he's committed.
I'm confused by it. It says the rabbi saw the Torah's procedure as preferable to unrestricted abuse of captives. They attempted to discourage the Torah's procedure as well. The rabbi said, hey, this is not, they said, Avera goreret Avera. A sin brings another sin. And violating this woman in such a manner, Averet goreret Avera, Avera is a sin. Goreret brings with it, in other words, causes. Avera goreret Avera. It's in Pirkei Avot. Mitzvah goreret mitzvah. Avera goreret mitzvah. You do one mitzvah, it brings another mitzvah. You do an Avera. It forms like a momentum, kind of like a chain reaction, okay? So the chain reaction is what the Torah is describing here. You go ahead and you take this woman against her will. Okay, fine, you can do that. But you're going to come to despise her. It's not a relationship that's founded on mutual respect, on genuine affection. It's just a relationship that's purely animal lust. And you're going to come, she's going to come to hate you, and you're going to come to hate her, and there's going to be no shalom by it. Avera goreret Avera. And if that's not ensought to discourage you, then you have the Ben Sora Amora. The Ben Sora Amora would be brought before the elders, and they would stone the Ben Sora Amora to death. Skila. So the point is, the Torah is saying the idea of Avera goreret Avera, that by doing this thing, you're going to start an entire chain reaction of negative events.
Yeah,
you would rather avoid. But it's interesting in the Kabbalah, because if she converts, and if she does it because she wants to convert, it says what it means when it says Eshet Yafet Tor. Yafet is
pretty.
Yafet. It's pretty, beautiful.
Pretty. Yeah.
She's Yafet. She's pretty. She's a hottie.
Yeah.
And in the Kabbalah, it alludes to the fact that he's attracted to the godliness, the spark of Kedusha within the woman. Okay, that's a stretch, but I'm telling you, I'm just telling you it's a stretch, but it's an interesting concept that he's attracted to the godliness, the ruchniut, or the Kedusha. In Kabbalah, it says that they're the netzotzot, the spark.
Well, then it's not really a stretch. You're saying he's attracted to the divine feminine, right?
Okay, all right. You want to put it like that, but actually to the godliness that he sees within the woman, and that in other words, he's looking to you go past the klipot, the shell, the physical covering, and he's elevating that divine essence within the woman,
Yeah, the beautiful divine essence, and that's like the Shekhinah, the divine. Yes.
I'm just wondering if Selena Gomez needs any elevation. No, I'm sorry. My wife's not around. She didn't hear that. If any of my colleagues are listening, oh boy, there goes my smicha. Bye-bye.
Well,
the imp of Irish perversity, I've never been able to repress it. Suppress it. It just pops out at the most inopportune times.
well, we love you anyway. It's okay.
Thank you.
Because you're so wise. So, all right. So back to, so sorry to interrupt, because I mean, I just had this like blasted idea that, right, she would be able to exercise, her right to not, have sex once she's married. And so then this guy is now just absolutely stuck. Not getting exactly what he had hoped for, but we were now talking about the rebellious son. So you wanted to go on to the rebellious son and how to put down your own kid, like I
Right. So basically, that's it. He has to be brought before the elders,
Mhm.
and they pick up stones and they stone him to death. So the Ben Sora Mora is meant to illustrate that, hey, look, even if you go ahead with this, you're not going to have a long, happy romance. And if you go ahead with this, the offspring, it gets all back to the concept of Avera Gererda Vera, that a sin brings, well, you're setting into motion a chain reaction of negative events that you're going to come to regret.
Right.
Now, the point is, looking at it Kabbalistically, if the soldier really sees within this woman godliness or ruchniut or the nefesh elokit, the divine nature, Dr. Jeremy calls it the divine feminine, whatever he sees, okay, something that can be elevated, something that, that's our job as Jews, to tikkun olam, right, to perfect and to rectify and to elevate the world. And if he really sees that in her, and she's willing to voluntarily accept upon herself the yoke of Torah and to forsake, forsake her people and her faith and everything else, and to willingly join with Klal Yisrael, then in such a case, and there are, then in such a case, then, I don't think that it would necessarily be true that he would come to resent her, or that their product, they would produce a Ben Sora Mora. Because,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I definitely, yeah, sure. Right. I mean,
I was referring to as Dafka as someone who's forcing her, who's like, it's about korcha. He's coercing her against her will. That's when it'll come to resent her and the Ben Sora Mora. Not if she, and actually there are rabbis, when I was learning in yeshiva, there are rabbis that say the whole idea of letting her hair grow long and her fingers grow long and everything like that was actually to give her a look of refinement in preparation for a conversion. Because women of nobility or women of high status didn't shave, didn't have to cut their nails. They weren't doing manual labor, and they didn't cut their hair. The idea of cutting their hair, or shaving their head. I came across that in somewhere, that there were rabbis that said actually this was to give them a look of refinement, or to elevate them actually in preparation.
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
It's a stretch. I'm just throwing it out there because
I'm not buying it, because archaeologically it shows that there's evidence to support that, like, people were grooming themselves quite in very modern ways. Let me just say, the Brazilian was not invented in the 2000s, okay? And the Sphinx was not invented just 25 years ago, all right? People have been doing that for a long time, and there was evidence to show that that's how people wore their pubic hair. They were scooching even back then, because there's Talmudic rabbis talking about, you shouldn't have genital piercings or too bushy pubes because you could get tangled up in them and things like that. So there was a lot of grooming going on.
Right.
So
That's right.
yeah.
But
wherever places we go during Parsha, the places we go, it's like, oh, the places we go. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing. The commentator suggests that the female captives would either be typically captured wearing ugly clothes or rags. The requirement to change her clothes meant giving her more dignified clothes, else while wearing beautiful clothes, in which case her clothes should be changed to less attractive ones. So in other words, if she was wearing rags or she was dressed like like a beggar, then she would be given more beautiful clothes. But if she was captured wearing very beautiful clothes, she'd be given less attractive clothes.
Oh, I like that. Where is that?
It's one of the commentators. One of the commentators.
I like that idea. They were like,
let me see.
mellowing them out.
Yeah.
Like evening them out.
It was kind of, that's what it was. It was kind of like evening them out. But anyway, there was, I don't know, one of the Meforshim brings that out, that it was basically if she was, so it was like kind of like seeking an equilibrium. The real interesting thing about this, that of all the mitzvot, is, like I said, 74 of the mitzvot, of the 613 mitzvot, a disproportionately large amount can be found in Ki Teitzei. And here's a question to ask, because I've seen some really brilliant comments from people. Mark Gilmore points out it was common practice in ancient times to capture slaves and concubines as spoils of war. Mark Gilmore is absolutely right. That's what we alluded to earlier, that it wasn't even questioned back then. It wasn't even considered an impropriety. I mean, a female slave, it becomes the property, like I said, it becomes the property of the soldier. It's like, to the victor go the spoils. And not only that, but slaves and concubines were treated like currency, which is an interesting point. That should the man decide that he doesn't want to marry
Oh yeah, right.
he cannot sell her.
Right.
He has to release her and send her to a place of her choosing. He cannot treat her like property.
Right.
It was
they
common
get to the end of the 30
days,
or to get to the end of the 30 days or before, and he decides, never mind, I'm not into it. He can't just turn around and sell her. He has to let her go. Right.
And you have to consider, even though that today that sounds like, well, huh? But you have to understand, back then that was very progressive. I mean, that was like, whoa. You mean you're just gonna let her go? You're gonna send her to a place of her choosing?
You're not even gonna make a buck out of it?
Yeah, you're not gonna, come on.
Yeah.
So, even though that sounds like, well, gee.
You've been eating your food the whole time. You've had to feed her. Like, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're going to, at least a goat or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, surrounding tribes would have looked at that and said, are they out of their mind? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So, like I said, a lot of these things that seem, and I'm saying to myself, of course, this is what gets me in trouble with my contemporaries and my colleagues, when I say that Judaism has always been, the Torah sets the tone. Judaism demands a progressive mentality.
Yeah, I think
just as we look at things, like I said, Abram Menachai taking a limb from a living creature, or the Eshet Yafet Hor, the beautiful female captive, just so we look at it today and say, wow. Those folks were really backward, but the Torah was light years ahead of where they were.
I think that's the lesson right there.
We always have to strive that, hopefully in the future,
strive
look back and
strive to be even more
Yeah.
moral than society around you.
They'll
Is the
look back and say
lasting lesson.
hashtag me. Yeah, they'll look back and say hashtag me too. Why did women have to fight for respect? Why did women have to fight for equality? Why did women have to fight for that? But you know, it's our obligation as Jews, as moral human beings, as both Jews, moral human beings, the righteous of the nation, the Chassidim Umot Olam. It's a nation. It's incumbent upon each and every one of us as representatives of our higher self. Okay, I serve God. I do so. Mr. Lolan or Faith McCann, call it the universe. Call it your higher self. Call it whatever name you don't want. I really don't think God cares what name you call him, but that's just between you and me. I really don't think God's going to say, oh, if you're calling me by a different name, I can't hear you. Because God is accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
But the point is, we should be pushing forward the progress that 500 years from now, they'll look back and they'll say, women actually had to fight for equality. Women actually had to fight for respect.
I want it. See. You're talking about something. I'm going to go a little bit off topic. I mean, which is to say that, I like the idea that basically Torah is the lesson is to aim higher than what is the standard. Right? Yeah. That's the lesson. The lesson is always aim higher than what is the standard. Now, as I'm a fan of Star Trek, as I call it, Star Trek Classic, Star Trek with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, I was never a fan, really, of The Next Generation because
How could you be? Picard was French.
Exactly, right. And he used to, rather than going into battle, he would be some tense moment, and then he would be like, conference, and I was like,
yeah, delay that order. Suggestions. I'm saying, what the?
Yeah, exactly.
The Klingons would have blasted him out of
this. Right. So I was constantly annoyed by that. But what I was really annoyed with was science fiction is great in that it allows for people to comment on current events. But since they're set in the future, they're less threatening, right? So you can comment on that I think Star Trek Classic was so good at that, like with the people who were like half black and half white, right?
It was tackling racial issues that could not have been addressed directly at that time.
Yeah,
but under the guise of science fiction,
right?
They could show how idiotic.
Exactly. But I always was frustrated that I really thought that there needed to be one episode, just one episode, where they come across some moral, ethical dilemma, and they go, "Oh yeah, no, that's no ethical dilemma at all. We figured that out 350 years ago. Press the button." Like we're like what we do today, right? Like it would have been an interesting episode. Like we go like, what? Like we wouldn't take a slave girl and no, we're not doing that. No. No, we solved that problem. No. I would have loved to seen one episode like that.
It would have been that would have been an intro. There are episodes I'm thinking of as you're saying that I can.
Star Trek did have the first interracial kiss on TV. Lolan, you're right.
Exactly.
Yes, it did.
They did.
Absolutely.
Between Lieutenant Uhura and Captain Kirk, but they were being forced through some sort of psychic coercion.
Yeah. Well, we brought them up, I think, last Parsha about the different the different worlds, right? The different frequencies. We're on a Star Trek kind of binge.
Exactly. We have Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya in Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah, the four Olamot. And but the thing is what you alluded to earlier, I think, is the real message that we can all walk away with from this meeting is the idea is that in each and every generation, our goal, like I said, and this isn't just incumbent on Jews, there are many phenomenal people who are not Jewish who have pushed the human race forward and pushed our awareness and consciousness forward. And I don't want the people who are listening who are not Jewish to think in any way their role is any less important. It's every bit as important. I'm a rabbi. I serve God in the method using the methodology of Judaism. Whatever methodology you use, the methodology it should take second. The methodology is not as important as the goal.
Yeah.
The goal for all of us together is to
harmonize and be in sync with each other.
Right. Is to advance our cultural awareness, our sensitivity, tikkun olam, to elevate the world.
Yeah. Elevate everybody. Yes.
To elevate everybody. Yeah. And and we elevate it by doing what we're doing right now, discussing these ideas. You can share them with your friends. You can share them with your family. You can share them and you can. It gets us to look like Star Trek. And Doctor pointed out, examine social issues that couldn't have been examined. I mean, I was watching it when I was a kid. It came out in the 1960s, right? I was a kid. I was a kid at the time, 1960s. I was born 1955. So, thing is, what?
Yeah.
I'm 70. Okay.
Yeah.
Not making I'm an altar cocker, as they say. Right?
No, you're not an altar cocker.
A lot of people actually. It's kind of funny, but I looked it up on Reddit. I think I texted it to you. A lot of people say I look like Dumbledore. Did you know that? Albus Dumbledore.
I don't see the resemblance. What, a wizard? I don't see it.
I
don't see it. All right, so we've got maybe 1 minute left, I think, and I'll use that time to say that we have Ma'ariv tomorrow night with our amazing Chazanit Tiferet, and that's at 6 p.m. Pacific time, so 6 p.m. PT. I'll send out a reminder. I will put this up on YouTube, and if you guys, please spread it around, share these things with everybody. So we need your help spreading the word of Temple of Miriam, because we really are the premier place and center for instruction in Jewish folk magic and in Merkava mysticism and in the Kabbalah. So, if you know those types of people, send them our way, and they don't even have to be Jewish. We're here, and very open.
That's a point I want to reemphasize or reiterate, is that we're here. I mean, the concepts, the overall concepts that we discuss and promote here, can be utilized advantageously by anyone. Regardless of your background, your ethnicity, your religious convictions, whatever. We're here to share and grow together, and anyone can participate, except French Canadians.
No.
Anyone else we want.
No spiritual gatekeeping. All right. Well, Lila Tov, everyone. Lila Tov. We'll see you tomorrow at Ma'ariv, I hope. And please.
Live long and prosper.
Yeah, exactly. Good.